As a performer, your body is there.
Hi, I'm Mad Kate, and you're listening to S.W.E.A.T, Sexuality, Work, Extraction, Art, Theatrics. S.W.E.A.T is a series of conversations about performance and performativity of the sexual and sexualized body at work, where work is broadly defined as the labor of survival, the labor of care, creativity, and capital A art. How exactly do we define our work? And how does that work entangle and circumscribe our sexual identities, our creative lives, and the ways in which we provide care? How do we perform tasks, acts of care, and identities? Anchored in our always already racialized and sexualized bodies, our complex intersectionalities, these conversations are a means of relating through work to each other. I hope that they contribute to dialogues which normalize sex work and all work as deserving of respect, healthy conditions, and a living wage.
Critical race theory is an analysis of the centrality of racism. It's also a strategy for reparations. It's a strategy for repairing, restoring, remedying those historic injustices.
This month's conversation is with Dr. Shelley Wong, Professor Emeritus at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, in multilingual and multicultural education. Her research interests include womanist, critical race, and interfaith perspectives on justice, peace, and reconciliation, dialogic inquiry, socio-cultural approaches to literacy, and critical multiculturalism. A lifelong activist, she was founding member of the Asian American Coalition for Nuclear Disarmament in New York in the 1980s. Most recently, she was Fulbright Scholar at Birzeit University in the occupied West Bank, Palestine. She wrote From the U.S.-Mexican Border to Palestine, a call to critical literacy and action for the Scholars Speak Out column of the Journal of Language and Literacy Education.
If teachers are going in and they have this attitude, I don't care if you're white, black, purple, I treat all kids the same, you are doing something that's wrong because you're not recognizing that there's one kid that didn't have breakfast this morning.
I met up with Shelley to attend the July 24th protest in Washington, D.C., when thousands of demonstrators gathered to protest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the United States Congress. In today's show, I also took the opportunity to talk to various demonstrators about how their work dovetails with their activism and their choice to be at the protest. So you'll hear various voices of resistance throughout the show.
I first became a working body when I was 15, and I worked at Woolworths. And I think that even though I did babysitting jobs, I considered that official work because I needed to get a work permit to work, and I was getting an actual paycheck. And so I entered the world of work then. And I am a professor emeritus, so I still have an official relationship with the university. I still supervise students with their dissertations, or I co-chair or serve on committees. And I'm also active in the Palestinian faculty and staff for Justice in Palestine group, as well as I'm an active member of the American Association for University Professors. So it enables me to do my research project with colleagues in Palestine. I feel that because I had this opportunity to work in the West Bank, most people in the U.S. don't know anything about Palestine. The media coverage is so horrible. So I feel that it's important for those of us who have a connection to be able to directly connect institutions, Palestinian institutions, with their counterparts in countries around the world. And one of the ways that this is happening now in the case of Gaza is that there are universities that are supporting students from all of the universities in Gaza that have been destroyed and working with Palestinian professors and students to enable students to complete their education when it is possible. It's not possible now because the communication is not there. People are starving. They have no water, they have no medicine, and they are being shot at. Hopefully, these ties and the movement around the world will stop this horrible carnage and allow the humanitarian aid to enter.
Is this research going into a book? Are you writing something right now, or did you?
So I've got one book project that's in the works, a curriculum project, Freedom Songs, in which teachers some from Palestine, but from around the world, are using songs to teach English.
Amazing.
And so that's one project, but there's also working to study education in the occupied West Bank and throughout Palestine.
And so you're continuing to be writing about that now?
Yes. And, interviewing, doing.
So when you go back, you're going to the West Bank in November. Will you be continuing to do interviews when you're there?
I'm not sure. That's a short trip, and so it's to attend a conference of women in leadership, and so I will not try to do anything other than attend to this conference. So it's a conference called by Christian Palestinian Women, and there'll be 3 days. The first day they invite men and women to participate, and the second and third day will be only women. And I look forward to learning from the women, and certainly hope that many examples of collaboration writing projects will emerge from that experience.
Do you want to give a little bit of context about where we are and what is the protest about today?
The protest today is to demonstrate the horror of U.S. Congress inviting Netanyahu, a war criminal, who, according to the courts, the International Court, should be arrested for his war crimes. Instead, to shower him with praise and give him a platform. He's a fascist. He's a genocidal maniac. And for our tax dollars in the United States and our Congress to continue to support this inhumane violence, and this is totally covered up in the media. So this is why people are here today. Because if it wasn't for these people here, you would not even know about what is going on in Gaza. And if you'll note, if you listen to the corporate media, there is no mention. Those hundreds of people daily are getting killed. The latest is the polio epidemic, that Israel is vaccinating after its own IDF forces while they have bombed the salination plants, don't allow them to have any power. They flooded the sewage lines. So people are starving, they have no water. Women are giving birth to babies without any, on the street in the rubble. Yeah. And they cannot breastfeed because they've had no nourishment. Yeah. This is a context. And at this time, to have Netanyahu welcomed in Congress is horrific. And that all of these people felt moved to say, not in my name. My tax dollars should not go to supporting this carnage that is going on in genocide is because of U.S. weapons. And the Congress has got to stop the flow of weapons to Israel.
In January of this year, the ICJ ruled in response to South Africa taking Israel to the ICJ to charge Israel with genocide. It was ruled that Israel should do everything within its power to stop a genocide, but didn't go so far as to demand a ceasefire, to be able to enact a ceasefire. I think I felt at that time a bit, while it was a historical ruling, also the limitations of a international court. And it made me feel a bit cynical about the way in which these international courts are sort of still located in the seat of colonial power. So to the sense that these courts are really actually unable to rule upon their own structures. What do you say to this kind of feeling of cynicism?
I think that what everyone is saying is that in this moment, what can we do to act? And by utilizing every single avenue to press for justice, part of the movement for international solidarity is really, it's a bourgeois movement. It's a bourgeois revolution of freedom, equality, liberty. That has incomplete. It was incomplete, in the French Revolution because of those that were excluded. The revolutions for independence, the French Revolution, the U.S. Revolution, these were the bourgeoisie against the old feudal aristocracy. And that within that movement, that it was a multi-class movement. And there were many people that were left out of that movement. Those that were slaves, those that were women, those that did not have property. So to utilize whatever means that you can within any court system, however imperfect, it's really important to methodically press. And at the same time, that any court case is meaningless without the movement. And that's where people in the street today, they are giving teeth. Otherwise, you can do any legislative work, or you could do, what does it mean for a city to call for ceasefire? But there is a relationship between the movement, symbolic movements, acts of solidarity, and people, grassroots people, showing up at the Board of Supervisors meeting, showing up at whatever locale they can to raise their voices. That we are not going to turn our eyes while genocide is going on.
My show is about work, so I'm really interested in how people's work, whether it's activist work or care work or whatever kind of work people do, dovetails with their activist work on Palestine.
My full name is Karama Hawash Kumerli. I'm a medical doctor, I'm a neurologist, and I'm the co-founder of Doctors Against Genocide. We started the organization in 2023 as a response to the genocide in Gaza, but we have been thinking about the role of medicine in genocide for many years before that. We feel that the medical community should be able to speak up and mobilize to oppose war crimes and crimes against humanity and genocide. And we are seeing in Gaza how the destruction of the healthcare and how starvation is being used as a weapon, how healthcare workers are being killed to facilitate the suppression, the oppression, and the genocide of the population. So we realize the importance of the medical community in any war. And we want to give our colleagues the tools to be able to identify a genocide and to speak up against it. And that's what we have been doing. We engage in education, we engage in advocacy, we engage in speaking to politicians to point to them that what they are doing in supporting a genocide is really not only a health hazard, it's a very criminal activity against humanity collectively. Our message is universal, our message is global. We do not want this to happen to anyone. I, as a Palestinian, do not want this to happen to any nation, to any people, to any child. And our inaction against genocide is a stain on our profession.
How do you balance your activist work with just your being a doctor?
It is part of being a doctor. If I take care of my patients, this is part of my work. I want to prevent harm to anybody, whether it comes to my hospital, whether it comes to my clinic, or whether it's somebody that I pay taxes to kill.
Have you felt like it's okay to speak up, or have you felt in any way stigmatized for your opinions?
I refuse to be stigmatized. It is not an option.
Yes, I'm a supporter of the labor for ceasefire call. I'm a retired member of United Steelworkers Local 3657 that represents staff within our international union. For many years, I worked on organizing and strategic campaigns, helping our members get first contracts, carrying out work around strikes and lockouts and fights for fairness and justice. So I'm a strong supporter of the need for workers around the world to be in solidarity with each other. That includes the workers in Gaza and Palestine, and I'm completely opposed to the United States government providing the weapons of death and destruction, what's being carried out against the Palestinian people right now.
Have you also been involved in any movements to block the boats?
I have not. I know, I believe the Longshore Union on the West Coast has been involved with that. They have a long history of taking actions like that, whether it's against the apartheid government in South Africa in the 1980s, or saying we're not going to ship arms to El Salvador in the 1980s. So they're on the front lines and have that power to refuse that work, and all power to them.
I think this is such an interesting moment for me to be in D.C., where Biden has just stepped out of the race and Kamala Harris is set to run for president. And I'm curious if there is hope around how she will position herself in relation to the movement. I know that she is not meeting with Netanyahu today, but she does plan to meet with him tomorrow, if I'm correct. What are your feelings on how she's trying to position herself, if you have hope about what she might do in the future in regards to Israel?
I have hope because we have a fighting chance now for these demands that Biden was before just giving total lies. He was giving total cover. Trump is a fascist, and he must be defeated. And now, I've gone from a point when I felt just so demoralized because it just didn't seem like whatever happened in November, there would still be more suffering. But now there is proof that the movement for justice in Palestine, the movement for immigrant rights, all of these issues that the Democrats have just sloughed away, there's an opening now to really recognize the humanity, not buy into Trump's demonization of immigrants, not buy into that xenophobia. So there is hope with this new coalition. But within a coalition, there's always the possibility that these voices for justice will be muted, that they'll be sold off. And so that's why it's so important that the movement continue those courageous actions. And that when you look at the international movement, particularly of the youth, of the students around the world, but it's led by the youth, but it's multi-generational.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what is so exciting. And it's really exciting to see the different components. Like where I'm at George Mason University, it's a student organization that is so powerful. And they are fearless in their willingness. They are fearless in their establishing encampments, having and there are a few like teachers, faculty that have been cowed by the attacks in the present period. The attacks on, if you even have the injustice between like a Palestinian teacher that would have on her email message something like, stop the killing in Gaza, could be put on administrative leave, suspended. Up and down, there have been all of these different attacks and to silence people. So the only way to stop that silencing is for that vocal activism of the movement. And that's where I'm so encouraged by this new generation.
As an activist, I also feel a lot of hope. Well, we just heard people passing saying, Harris, Harris, you can't hide, we charge you with genocide, because, she is part of the establishment. And I think it is, while we definitely need to make sure Trump is out of office, it's still also important to just keep pushing her, and to show, like you said, that actually the grassroots social justice movements is really where the progressive voices are at.
Like if all of the people here stopped their effort and said, oh, good, she's in. Let's just go door to door for Kamala.
Right. You're shaking your head. there is a U.S. military industrial complex that has everything to do with wanting to develop according to the international capitalist order. I'm speaking as somebody in the U.S., so I speak from the belly of the beast, and what I mean by that is the center of U.S. imperialism. And so that analysis of U.S. imperialism is something that has not been a part of the common vocabulary of the movement. So let me just talk about a few features, off of the top of my head that characterize our U.S. situation of McCarthyism and what it means to be, as a professor who has utilized critical race theory since the 1990s, that is now under attack by the Republican Party as well as the apparatus in every single state in the United States to make it criminal for people to teach about, use critical race theory to talk about racism or to be anti-Semitic, which is defined as criticism of the state of Israel. So in this context, how did we get here in the U.S. where critical race theory is under attack? In every single academic institution, progressive except Palestine. If you look at all of the declarations of human rights in the American Educational Research Association, immediately they would put out a statement concerning Ukraine, silence on Palestine. If you look at any journal in the field and you look up Israel, you'll see all kinds of articles. But if you put in Palestine, you won't see anything for decades and decades and decades. Right. There are very few academics that have stepped out. It's the students that are stepping out. And that's the mainstream Biden perspective and Trump perspectives, which is all people have heard, is the dominant perspective. Right. People don't know what's going on in Gaza, and the chauvinism allows them to let that continue. The racism and the chauvinism. Why is is this issue important to you, and does it connect to being Native?
To me, because I am Native, because I am what the Palestinians will be in Israel if this happens. And here I am right now, we're so many hundred years away from that, and I'm telling you that we're still fighting to this day. The Natives, they still have problems, like they still living on the reservations. There's still people in the richest country in the world that have no running water, no access to anything, no mail, they all do through P.O. Box. You can't vote if you have a P.O. Box, see what I'm saying? So we're free, but how free? So they have a lot of things going on with them. The mascots, they're still, to this day trying to get back their identity that was taken from them. So I don't want to cause any more, drama or anything with my people and their plight of what they're doing.
Do you feel like it's dangerous to speak out as a pro-Palestinian?
Yes, I do.
Time?
I do. Yeah. Here in America, it's really not popular to be pro-Palestinian. So, anytime you do any kind of thing pro-Palestinian, or you're on the side of the road, people are driving by throwing things at you, and it's insane. It's insane,
My name is Ron Ashford. I'm actually retired. I retired from the federal government. I worked at HUD, Housing and Urban Development, for 23 years. I retired 6 months ago. And had I not been retired, I still would be out here. I still would be out here because this issue is so important. I don't understand how people can look and see 39,000 people dying and seeing all the destruction and not come out and say, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. So I'm out here to be counted.
How does issues around housing connect to this work, or your work at HUD connect to this?
Well, there's a lot of money going into Israel. There has been a lot of money going into Israel for the last 50 years. That money could go to housing, and we could end the housing crisis. We could do that. But that's where the money is going, 2,000-pound bombs. It's not going to housing.
Do you think you could have been out about your opinions at HUD when you were there?
When I was there, Ben Carson was there. I don't know if you know Ben Carson. Ben Carson was the secretary. No. And in fact, when I retired, about 6 months later, somebody from the Washington Post interviewed me, right? And I said, Carson, they came in, they're not talking to any of the career people, they don't know what they're doing, and my name was barred from HUD. So I'm saying that lightly, but friends of mine didn't get, or my unit didn't get the respect they deserved because I was the director and I had said that, so it was like a brush against all of them.
I'm a nurse, and I also volunteer with a harm reduction organization where I'm from, and I'm a member of the PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. The PSL party is distributing water, and I'm helping with that. It feels, I guess, natural to me as a nurse to go around and yell at people to drink water.
I'm really curious, as a teacher of critical race theory and also of English as a second language, and looking at new strategies for how to teach English as a second language, especially what you said, content. You had a word before around
Content-based.
content.
English as a second language, or content-based, where you teach math or social studies so that, elementary and secondary students can learn the content. So, for example, if you have a student that comes from Mexico or Japan who enters into the 4th grade, they already know lots of mathematics. And so why start them with just learning the numbers? Why can't you allow them utilizing their own languages simultaneously to advance while they're learning English? They should continue in otherwise they're really their education is getting undercut. So bilingual education is important, and utilizing, not replacing the home language, but seeing language acquisition as an additive process.
So I'm really curious as a teacher how your work has connected to the many struggles that you've been involved in, because I know it's not only Palestine, not only your time in the West Bank at Birzeit University, other struggles that you've been involved in. How are these struggles linked? How is your work linked?
Well, I'd like to start by just talking about why I've been teaching critical race theory ever since I was a professor at the University of Maryland and in the 1990s. The article that I had students read over and over again is an article by Professor Mari Matsuda, who wrote an article in the Yale Law Review about accent discrimination and about the voices of the sons and daughters of plantation workers in Hawaii, and that different court cases of discrimination were lost by people who were discriminated against. A television announcer whose speech was supposed to sound not like pidgin dialect, local dialect, but more like the mainland, more neutral language. And they sadly lost their cases. But what I wanted teachers who are teaching students to think about is how the languages of the students, that each one of the students in your class, has a home language that should be supported, and that rather than say, oh, we're in the U.S. now, speak English, it's really important that the teachers really support those home languages and cultures. And what critical race theory does, it was a movement, Mari Matsuda and other law professors like Derek Bell, and who talked about how they were countering a movement in the law schools that was called critical legal studies, that was a Marxist orientation that talked about the problem of those who had rights that have property as opposed to those that don't have property. And what the critical race scholars like Derek Bell, Mari Matsuda, and others thought was that in the U.S., you have to account for the centrality of racism. You can't talk about property rights if you don't talk about slavery, that there were people that were property, and that not only did they not have rights, but if you don't understand that history and what that has meant for the understanding of capital development and who has and who has not, then you will not understand this tremendous debt that is owed to those sons and daughters of enslaved people and indigenous people. To look at indigenous people's lands and how indigenous people were demonized, were driven off, eliminated with all of these broken treaties. If you don't understand that as a foundation, and so their current movements now have been there have been a core group of people who throughout have seen this is the true history that must be taught. And if we don't understand that, how can we change it? It's not equal. If teachers are going in and they have this attitude, I don't care if you're white, black, purple, I treat all kids the same, you are doing something that's wrong, because you're not recognizing that there's one kid that didn't have breakfast this morning. There's somebody else that's living in a homeless shelter. And what are you going to do? You treat all the kids the same, and there was one that, has a computer at home and the other that doesn't even have a home. So that's why you have to teach critical race theory. Critical race theory is an analysis of the centrality of racism. It's also a strategy for reparations. It's a strategy for repairing, restoring, remedying those historic injustices. And those are all legal issues. So when you fight a case in the courts, the courts are imperfect because they're racist foundations. But you have to work towards that more perfect union that's inclusive of all of the people that were historically excluded, not just historically, but today. And it's compounded. It's compounded because with each crisis that occurs, whether it's a hurricane, like Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, what happened to all of the schools in the 9th Ward, which was the area where most of the African Americans were completely wiped out? And so you have these migrations because people, those that have more. Those that don't become refugee. And so the whole issue for us teachers that work with refugees, immigrant populations is, why are these students here? Why aren't they in their home countries? And the reason why they're not in their home countries is because of U.S. foreign policies that support multinational corporations that are ripping off Haiti. Haiti was one of the richest countries in the Americas. The Haitian people were these amazing artisans, farmers. They led this whole independence struggle. And yet, why is Haiti so poor? And if you look at Haiti, the U.S. has one of the largest military bases in Haiti. The U.S. has 800 military bases around the world. And this growth of the military industrial complex has only increased. It's increased whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. And the support for the war against the Palestinians, the support of Israel to grab that land, to keep people from going to their homes, that appropriates and divides families, puts up a wall so that before they used to walk down to their mother's house and they can no longer go there anymore. This is all funded by the U.S. military. And under President Obama, $3.8 billion a year was allocated. When Trump came in, for 10 years, and then when Trump came in, Trump did even worse things. Most notably, he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which is, again, a land grab. And he cut off funding to the United Nations. And this is perhaps the most, as a teacher, I must talk about the United Nations schools that have been attacked by Biden. Israel has destroyed all of these United Nations schools under the pretext of they are beds of Hamas, and Israel does not allow any journalists in to see what's going on. And that's why this demonstration is so important today.
I'm Aisha Asaf, and I'm a Palestinian. And since I'm not allowed back into my homeland, I must do everything in my power that I could. Where I am residing, the country that I am residing in is committing the utmost tragedy and genocide in my home. And honestly, that's the least I can do, is to come and stand for my people. Yeah.
What kind of work do you do here?
I don't necessarily do work. I just protest, as always, because I feel like the organizers here are literally just immaculate. Like, they have everything under control. If I'm asked, of course, I step in anytime, any day. I'm more in the New Jersey and New York area, not really here though. So yeah.
Well, activist work is important, very, very important work, and it's time, and it's also unpaid labor. So,
Exactly. And it's worth it. When you're protesting for your people, it's so worth it. It's literally the best thing ever. You don't need even payment. You don't think of that. It's literally just your peace of mind, knowing that you're speaking up.
I'm here as a political asylee. And who gave me the asylum? United States of America. Who? The one who's killing us, you know? Because they know. Because they know what they're doing. They know what we go through. And they granted my asylee because they know what the hell they're doing. They are partner for this genocide. The United States. Biden. I don't want to cuss him out, but I'm not a full-time activist, but I'm a full-time activist. Activist doesn't mean just participating in this. Activist to be wherever you are, you're voicing out. You're trying to reach everybody about your cause. Our cause is the peace for the Palestinians, the peace for my kids. My kids is the Palestinian kids. Stop killing those kids, those, infants and the one newborn and the one have no chance to be born now because their mom is being killed, their dad is being killed. And if being born, no mom, no dad, no uncle, no this. What kind of life is that? Yeah. This is why we need to stop the genocide. What they're doing there with the support of Germany, America. Germany is actually worse than United States. If you feel guilty, I'm sorry. Don't make us pay the price. Go and feel guilty your own way, but don't make me pay the price for that. You did it. The Palestinian people who received those people from Germany and all over Europe, that when you kick them out, you don't want them there. They've been living in peace. They lived with us. We welcomed them. Then they start genociding us. It's not the Jews. It's the Zionists who came and, played around and fooled us around and established what's called Israel now, which should be Palestine. When we say Palestine from the river to the sea, because it's Palestine from the river to the sea, because we can live with the Christian and Jews in peace. Israel cannot live with the Palestinian, Muslim and Christian in peace. And it should. They bomb the churches in Gaza. They don't care.
Yeah.
They killed with no identity. They just kill Palestinian, genocide them, kill them, wipe them off the map. That's what they're doing. And that's what we are here for. Because I don't care what you do to the Palestinian, they will be there. Yeah. The American people just lack of knowledge. Once they know, they are here. The lack of knowledge bar them from being here. You see how many, partition and they make us 3 hours to get here. That's who's doing this. The Abar, the politician, the one who somebody said United States of Israel. That's true. Because the Republican and Democrats sitting there doing this to genocider Netanyahu. And that's sad. When the American knows, they change in favor of the right thing, in favor of justice.
I just want to talk a little bit from my own experience, having lived in the West Bank for a year.
Right, you're a Fulbright there.
I was a Fulbright Scholar at Birzeit University from 2018 to 2019. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means for the International Court of Justice to talk about what it means for there to be apartheid in the West Bank. Well, the erasure of Palestinians is all over in the media. And what people don't know is that since October, there are over 8,000 Palestinians in the West Bank that have been arrested. There are killings going on. The settlers will go in and will beat and kill people, and the IDF will come in and arrest people. Because of the war,
you have quotes in the air.
There's a war, because there's a war, even though before they also were placed without any rights. This is commonplace. Right. But the numbers, and it's called administrative detention.
Okay.
which means that you don't have the right to a lawyer, you have no charges, and what is going on now, and we know this from those who have come out, Palestinians are being tortured in those prisons in the West Bank, and sometimes they're shipped to other prisons within Israel. They put the Ziploc ties on their wrists so tight that they had their hands amputated. Everyone that has come out of those prisons has lost all of this weight because they're not fed, and if they're beaten, they're not given any medical attention. So, as we are here at this demonstration today, it's really important to realize that if Netanyahu gets his way, and if Israel continues with U.S. bombs and backing, all of Gaza will be eliminated, and the West Bank is next, and East Jerusalem, in that order. The whole complete decimation of a people. And I want to say that when we talk about apartheid as a system, it's really important to see how the structures of divide and rule have been used to maintain that oppressive system of apartheid. And so there are many different ways to maintain apartheid. And one is through those conscious divisions. The other is that they've used both legal and illegal militias from the beginning. At my university, Birzeit University, before I went to Birzeit University, I started in August, and of March of that year, the student body president was abducted, kidnapped from the campus. And it was by Israeli undercover agents. They dressed as Palestinian reporters, and they seized him. And this happened while the year I was there in March, again, because the students at the university have they'll have rallies and they'll support the different political parties. There are many Palestinian parties, and they all have their own flags, and this is an expression of democracy that you see under occupation. It's with the students on these campuses that the faculty at Birzeit University, unlike the faculty at many other places, support the students. I mean, they really are, they continue to try to get them to do their work and to, but they also understand.
You just heard from Dr. Shelley Wong, Professor Emeritus at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, in multilingual and multicultural education. Most recently, she was Fulbright Scholar at Birzeit University in the occupied West Bank, Palestine. We met up to attend the July 24th protest in Washington, D.C. to unwelcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's joint address to Congress. You've also heard from workers around the country who attended the demonstration. I'm Mad Kate, and you've been listening to S.W.E.A.T, a series of conversations about performance and performativity of the sexual and sexualized body and work. The theme music was composed by me and features the voice of performer and actress Lori Baldwin. S.W.E.A.T airs every second Tuesday of the month at 13 hours Central European Time on Colaboradio, Free Radios Berlin-Brandenburg, broadcasting on 88.4 FM in Berlin, 90.7 FM in Potsdam, and streaming online at fr-bb.org. Afterwards, it's available for streaming wherever you get your podcasts.
You have hope for the U.S. government to change?
If the people change, which is I see it every day, but we are patient. I don't expect it to be tomorrow or after 10 years, but we are so patient. 76 years, it will be 100, but at the end of the day, those people will be with us. Once the people are with us, the puppets in the Congress and the Senate will not be there. There's hundreds of them boycotting today. There's Bernie Sanders, who is American Jew.
Boycotting Netanyahu's visit.
Netanyahu's visit. He called him war criminal. And those, Bernie Sanders was not like this. He was, left, but not to that point.
Right.
But he got it to here. Okay?
Yeah. Because of the movement. You put pressure.
Because of you, because of them, because of us, because of everybody trying to do something.
Yeah.
Because if we stay silent, I'm sorry, nobody will hear you. If you're scared to say anything, I'm sorry, you pay the price. But we pay the price, sweat our ass, we are not doing anything. Our people sweating blood. Our kids getting killed. Our women, our men, our old men, doing a lot. What we doing? Sweating? That's nothing for the cause of Palestine.
I'm Mad Kate, and you've been listening to S.W.E.A.T, Sexuality, Work, Extraction, Art, Theatrics. Thanks so much. Until next time.